You are listening to Spilling the Tea, a real estate podcast with Kristy Macero and Shelagh Maycheck.
Hello everyone and welcome to season 2 of Spilling the Tea. We are your hosts Kristy Macero and Shelagh Maycheck.
Hello.
And today's topic is all about knickknacks, collections, expensive items people have in their homes and the challenges that may come with them.
Trinkets.
Today we have two men that are so in love, you can feel it in the camera. We've got David Smith from the David Smith Homes Group here at Royal LePage and Jeremy Pue from White Cloud Production.
Hello.
Fun fact, they're best friends.
We've known each other for a long time.
A long time. White Cloud may have been inspired over a season of whiskey drinking together.
I was going to say
In
David's
my backyard.
idea.
In your backyard.
In my backyard. Dave showed me a video and I was like, I could do that. And he was like, do you want to? And I was like, no.
And I said, tough, you're my guy. We're now doing this.
And 7 years later,
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah.
And like true friends, it blossomed and bloomed.
It did.
I love it. It's good. I like the chemistry at the table right now because Shelagh and Jeremy are like spirit best friends, and then you guys have known each other for a long time, and it's all very good people. It's
And
fun.
you and I are terrified of each other. It's perfect.
David, not tonight. Okay, so let's get back on topic. This is going to be too much fun. One of the best things about real estate is that we get to work with a variety of people. Mm-hmm. It can also be the reasons why we have podcasts like this one, because people are fascinating. Anytime that you work with people, they kind of shock the hell out of you because they have different backgrounds. They have different personalities. They have different tastes. And no better way to learn about a person than to be inside of their house, see their items, and see their collections. With this episode, we're going to be talking specifically. It's Pacific time.
I judge people that say Pacifically. I do.
Sorry, back on topic. Right?
Sorry.
We're going to be talking specifically about collections of items, the messages these items may send people, and what we as agents and media companies have to kind of mediate with regards to the messages that might go out there. Because let's be serious, when you take a photo of somebody's house, those photos are online for everyone to see. That's everybody's first showing. That's why we have people like Jeremy that are there to showcase the houses in the best possible light. Video is very important to David Smith. Like, he's going to make sure that it is videoed perfectly. And it's inside their house. So you're probably thinking, like, who cares about the odd item or two? But when something's on the internet, it's on the internet forever. Before we get into that, we're going to start by asking Shelagh some questions.
Ready.
Shelagh, do you or anyone in your household have a collection out on display in your home?
Yes. I may have some trinkets of the Sailor Moon variety or Funko Pops and Harry Potter, and I have a wand that I bought at a farmer's market. And
What do you do with it?
I sure don't Wingardium Leviosa my cat in my house, but I would love to if I could. I practice. So I have an entire room and it's got like all my favorite things in there. Like, it's a good time.
I respect that, actually. Yeah. Just a room with your favorite things.
Yeah.
And
Do
Shelagh also has Lego collections that are out, like the Friends Lego collection.
Yeah.
Basically, Sheila's kind of a big nerd, and you guys are all discovering that today.
I knew already.
I mean, I'm super secret about it.
Do you have anything so valuable you would simply just die if it got broken or taken?
Oh
during
my
showing?
gosh. I have a lucite, which is it's a clear, I think epoxy. It's a fancy art term for clear epoxy. It's a lucite sculpture that I bought from an art gallery in Maui. And they're worth thousands of dollars because I was really stupid with my money one year. And I bought two. I have these two sculptures in my house. And if somebody dropped one, it was like $8,000 US. And I love that piece of art and it sits over there, but do I ever touch it? No. Do I sweat when I have to move it in the house or dust it? Yes.
What? Can you send me a picture of those later?
You bet.
Yeah. And what possessed you to be like, you know what? One of these isn't going to cut it. I need two lucite.
They're
Give me 2 really expensive epoxy things.
We're gonna put pictures in the podcast.
I want-
We'll put them
I
up.
had an emotional connection to
B-roll.
both of these pieces because one was like it looked like ice and orcas in it, and the other one was a wave turning over and it had sea turtles in it. And at the time, I was living in the Arctic, and I felt like Vancouver was home, and I was in love with Hawaii. So I felt like I had 2 pieces of the world that I could take with me
Okay. That
for a
adds up.
lot of money.
So when you see things in people's houses, it makes you kind of wonder. And I bought
I'm
a house.
kind of wondering about Sheila right now.
For any thieves out there, I certainly do not have anything else in my house, so it's not there anymore.
So
Don't
just
go.
take those and don't drop them.
We'll show you a picture of them so you can
Smash
recognize
the
them when you
Friends
break
Lego
in.
in
I'll
your
give
way
you the
out.
location.
Yeah. Okay. So I bought a house with red pot lights and sex swing hooks, and it sent the wrong message. And I was, shopping with
Or
my
the right
my
message.
dad. No, and so it was embarrassing. I called the realtor and was like, "You want
I
to
mean,
know?"
they're still there, but
I mean, that's not why we bought. No, but it didn't send the right message, and there were these red high heels out and really really tall high, and it just didn't quite send the right message for everybody. So
red's not your
It
color.
didn't spell out home.
Yeah.
you have to buy this. No,
Yeah.
but items in people's houses, especially things that people have, it can send the message out there to people, and it could put a bad taste in people's mouths depending on what it is. So no jokes. Stop it.
Ah, amazing.
We once sold a house with a bajillion birds. There were bird cages everywhere, and there was fern plants everywhere. It was we basically sold a jungle. Is
It's
what
like
I'm
the
saying.
Rainforest Cafe in somene's house.
Except for real.
All
'cause-
indoor birds?
Yes. And there was there must have been 40 of them.
And one eagle.
Well, okay.
He kept the other ones in line. Caw-caw!
I asked for that
We
because
had to
there
feed
is a
it.
house near us and they have pigeons outside. So they have
Oh, homing
100
pigeons.
pigeons.
I love pigeons.
Right. But they're all outside birds. That's why I asked.
Oh, these were inside
it was
birds.
inside
Yeah,
birds.
I'm like,
yeah.
of course they're inside Jeremy. There's cats.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So basically we had to do that, and it was like having our very own tiki room. And thankfully the market was well enough that we could just sell it. We didn't have to worry about these birds too much, but some people are afraid of birds.
Yeah.
Birds have a smell.
Yeah.
And we couldn't necessarily ask to have the birds moved. Right? 'Cause
Right.
They
there
make
were
a lot of
so
noise
many
during
of them.
showings,
They were
too.
so loud. It was
Yeah.
crazy. You're saying they're going through your listing documents, and it's like,
Please come to the kitchen to tweet.
yeah. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So recently also we looked online and we saw an agent who had what we called the panda room.
Yeah.
There was a room in a house that was listed recently, and that room must have had probably 400 to 500 panda items.
Yeah.
It's not something that you could ask really someone to box up with that magnitude of collection.
Could you just move the pandas for photo day? There's impossible.
It would take
no
hours. It was unreal. And you have to kind of accept it because the seller's probably not going to move them. And if they're items that seller's proud of, then they're really not going to move them. And they could have...
Knowing sellers, that seller's going to be like, actually, I was thinking the pandas might sell the place.
That's exactly
100%.
what they would say.
100%.
100%.
Absolutely.
You know, the pandas could be what really captures someone's imagination about this place.
Beloved by all.
That really is. That's a seller's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're totally right.
bang
They would
on.
do it. They would just accept that it's going to be there. It's part of their life to the point where they've got an entire room for it. So I love that Jeremy is on this podcast because he sees everything out there. This is his life. He goes in there. He takes the photos. You've gone into a ton of houses. More than the average bear.
Panda.
Panda bear.
Panda bear.
And you have the responsibility of showcasing that house in the most professional way for marketing.
Yeah.
So have you ever come across any items that you specifically did not want to shoot?
Yeah, all the time. Weekly, probably. Where to my eye, I'm like, that shouldn't be there. But, for whatever reason, a lot of owners have set things up or it's been staged. The other side of that is if I go into a staged home, I've moved things in a staged home and then the stager saw the photos and ripped me a new one. She was like, why did you move that? And I was like, oh. So I'm careful about what I do. But I had one time in June or July shooting a townhouse and I line up to take a photo of the main floor and there's a 3-foot tall like Christmas nutcracker there. And so I'm like, that doesn't belong here. It's July. So
What did
no
you
one else
do?
is on the floor. So I went over and I grabbed it by its top hat
Oh, yeah.
and lifted it up to move it just out of the way of the photo so I could snap the photo and put it back. And the owner came barreling around the corner. I was like, what are you doing? And the agent running behind me. I'm like, don't
Don't touch the nutcracker.
Yeah, so I'm like, I was just dusting it off. I don't. And
no.
so the nutcracker was like in all the photos in July.
And all of them.
It was
The owner
was-
Moves it around.
Yeah.
because it was.
It's like an elf on the shelf.
It was the main
Yeah.
floor of a townhouse. So any angle
yeah.
in that main
Oh.
floor, you
Nutcracker.
saw it. Yeah,
It's the downside. to open
Again, that
concept.
seller's probably like, Nutcracker's going to sell this place.
that was a bizarre one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I see all kinds of stuff.
That is bizarre. I never
I
would.
can see these.
Yeah, now I'm gonna search for every.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that's sold in July.
So that's okay. Okay. Have you ever had to Photoshop out an item?
Yes, I have. Yeah, there have sometimes been items left in showers,
Like what?
like vibrators, where I'm just like ripping through a house and I don't even notice. I'm just like, oh, lots of stuff in the shower or whatever.
Right.
And then the agent's like, hey, the owner really doesn't want that. And I was like, well, she shouldn't have left it there. Or he. So yeah, we
Yeah,
do
because
that all
it's
the time.
personal spaces. It's personal
Totally.
spaces. Personal things get left in personal spaces.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, so I have had everything on the spectrum from like that kind of stuff to random stuff that they're like, can you please Photoshop out the nail clippers that are on? And I'm like, I have to zoom in like 4,000 times to even
Yeah.
see them. And I'm like, okay.
This
Yeah.
takes up 7 pixels, but sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
all the time. Yeah.
I never would have thought about moving a staging item and then them being upset, but I guess like people pay for that service and it's there and
Totally.
it's supposed to look a certain way, but you come in with a lens and you're like, well, this doesn't belong here.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, at the time I didn't know if it had been staged or if the owner had done it on their own.
Yeah.
Or if just the agent had helped. So
And
I
it
was-
might even look decent in person.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look right in a picture.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I was
Yeah.
like sliding something back so that it just, the composition was right on the
How
photo.
dare you?
Well, a lot of people
Yeah.
forget that you're looking through a lens,
Totally.
and you're at a different angle than maybe somebody walking in at a different height would be. So
Totally.
yeah, I would have just been like, well, learn how to decorate. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You go back to them. Imagine.
Oh man. And the agent like didn't care at all, but it was
course.
just the stager that
Yeah.
DM'd me on Instagram.
That's nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
Okay.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
David, I know you got stories, man. Like you've been around a while.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna ask you, what would you do if your seller had like maybe a collection of weird items you weren't sure sent the right message?
So now I've found out why you've invited Jeremy to sit next to me on this one. Jer and I have seen a few things over the years. We are kind of sounding like Vietnam vets a little bit, like with our Twitch and everything. We've seen stuff.
We've seen some things.
It wasn't in Nam though. It was in Abbotsford. And it was a long time ago now. So I feel okay talking about it. Obviously,
was-
we're not
okay.
going to disclose too many personal
Identifying
details.
Yeah,
at all.
we-
There's no
yeah.
identifying anything.
It's,
Right?
I will say it was a long time ago, but I can still smell it.
Oh, that's
And
quite
I
the
Do you
can
know what I'm
description.
talking
yeah,
about?
I do. So
The smell was
Yeah.
so distinct in
What
that
did it
room.
smell like
Well-
for the viewers at home?
Tell me more.
I'm going to focus on the visuals.
Take me a nose.
Even
picture
though I've
after.
literally not opened my eyes for the last 10 seconds, which is terrible on a
Paint me a nose picture.
video.
This picture.
Okay,
don't
so
want
I went, lovely couple. I'd been door knocking in the area because I'd sold another property in the area. And I got to chat with them and whatever, and they were moving somewhere else, and they wanted me to sell the property. So they're showing me around the home, and we get downstairs, and there's a room with no windows. So it's very dark, and it's been painted black from floor to ceiling. I don't remember what was on the floor, but it was black too. Everything was black, and there was a wall of black shelving. And on every single one of those shelves was a porcelain doll.
Wow,
And
that's 10,000 levels of creepy.
yes, so
What did it smell like?
Oh, is this the same room that smells?
This is the room
Yeah.
that
Oh,
smells.
no.
So, I need to open my eyes again. Okay, I'm gonna. I keep
flashback.
shutting
Stay
them
with
because
us,
it was
David.
so disturbing. Okay, so I stepped out of the room, and the parents were very clearly. This was not younger. This was a middle-aged gentleman who had no business having a black room full of porcelain dolls, in my opinion. But the parents said to me when I brought it up, they were like, "Well, it's his lifestyle," and I said to them, "Okay, I can respect that, but is so-and-so paying rent?" And they said no. And I said, well, that lifestyle and the collection associated with it could cost you tens of thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
because it's going to be difficult for some people to see past and smell past. So they listened to me somewhat. I don't even really remember what the shoot went like.
You've blocked it
So,
out of your mind.
I really
So,
don't.
can I jump in?
Please.
So we showed up to shoot the property, and
And this was weeks later after the initial conversation.
right. So they had cleaned up a few. So I think the porcelain dolls were actually put away in the room
They're ready to go.
by the time I got there. You know what I do remember about that townhouse is that it was huge.
Enormous.
Like it just kept going forever and
Yep.
ever.
Great
so when-
townhouse. Great people. Porcelain dolls.
As if it had a black hole.
So when I opened the door to this room, I walk in. Do you remember this part of it? There was a single chair in the middle of the room.
I'd
and-
forgotten.
And a giant flat screen TV.
In
And then
the porcelain doll.
porcelain dolls all around the place.
While they all watch movies together.
And I opened the door and I was like, that's weird. And then I smelled this smell that I never will ever forget. It just smelled like
Not good.
man. I don't so bad.
Must be scent of man.
And I remember closing the door and being like, Dave. And Dave going, yeah. And me saying, I'm not going in there.
You refused to shoot the room.
So I took one photo from the door. But I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not going in there.
No.
Because if you have floor plans, you don't really need to shoot
Not
every
every
single
room.
room.
Whoa.
And we sold the place. I felt like everybody was treated with respect.
Yeah.
But I did have to say this collection,
Yeah.
this set of knickknacks, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd forgotten so much of that.
I didn't.
he still
think
wakes up in
that's-
the middle of the
we're
night
just-
and goes,
we're having-
Dave, I'm not shooting this room.
Yeah.
Dolls.
We're having different responses to trauma.
It's
is what's being
100%.
described there.
100%.
So, have you ever come across any odd item in a home, or have you ever had a buyer really upset about an item that they found during a showing?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the first question is odd items. And obviously, like, these items are in someone's home because they don't find them odd.
Yes.
They like them,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So, again, full respect. You can learn a lot about who the sellers are from what they have in their home.
Yes.
Like, I can now walk into a home and I'm like, oh, Filipino people live here.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know? Filipino Jesus. Like, there's an altar
Yeah.
with Filipino Jesus there. And I'm like, Filipinos live here. And now you know. And, you know, there's other ethnicities that will come through the home and be like, what on earth is with Filipino Jesus? I'm like, well, Filipinos live here. Like, it's
Yeah.
the most normal
Right.
thing in the world. The paintings with eyes that follow you around in creepy basements.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Haunted mansion.
I had a
style.
few of
Yeah.
those over the
Yeah.
years. Very, very odd. I mean, I walked into a room that happened to be in my own house that I found quite odd at one point. I got back from a golf trip and my wife had turned our downstairs bedroom into a she cave, which is like her own closet room now. Amanda has 4 closets in her house, including a whole room. And I'm like, who lives here? And she's like, I do if you don't shut up about it. And I'm like, okay.
She claimed that.
She claimed
spot.
the space. I was gone for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that
all it took.
that
I
was
remember
a,
you saw in your
Oh,
video
man.
her coming in with stuff.
Yeah.
And you were like, what
there's
is
a
she doing?
bed in there, like set up like a Victorian house. There's shoes and clothes and knickknacks and
It's Barbie's dream
collections
house.
of
Oh,
copper
man.
things. It's very unusual. So I found that quite odd. That was in my own home. But
Just shut the door.
I was like, who lives here? So lots of odd things in lots of houses, including my own. But I'd say like on the sadder side of things, like the most disturbed I've ever seen a client, the most tender client, like lovely lady, married to a lovely guy. They're just the nicest people you've ever met. And we were shopping at kind of like entry level single family home budget. And we entered a property. We knew it was run down. It hadn't showed particularly well in the pictures. But the collection in that house was basically like just a collection of beer bottles and cans and bottles everywhere.
Different lifestyle.
Well, just like very sad.
Yeah.
Clearly someone that's not coping well with life. And again, hit by the smell, like the property has just got so away from them and they can't keep up anymore. And this lovely client, like, she just fell apart. She just like burst into tears,
Empathy.
had to leave the home. Once I got out there, she was saying like, I can't believe people live like that. Is there anything we can do to help them?
Wow.
Like, it was just like that it's not disturbing in like a creepy way. It was disturbing in like a sad way to that particular client, and obviously to anybody else that saw it. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that happens. We had, what was the one item that we had, or that we saw, there was a house that had white supremacy things in it, which was a little bit, that was, everyone lives their life differently.
I walked into the condo and it was all that and anything to do with the occult. And I was like, I didn't know collections like this existed.
And you're a nerd,
That's a
so
lot going on.
I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
We always ask
Yeah.
people, like, hey, did you want to leave? Or, like, hey, sorry if any of this is upsetting. Because, like, you just never know what people have inside their homes. I think it was tenanted. I feel like it was tenanted.
owner occupied. I
Oh.
looked after.
Yeah, it's just things that you look up. Because you never know. Sometimes people put things out of their tenants to try to dissuade people from moving in and stuff like that. So you just never really know.
Yeah.
Again, people fly different flags.
It
we
wasn't in any of the
are being
photos.
very polite tonight,
Yeah.
which is nice. Because it's like, obviously you don't want to shame anybody for something that they have in their home, but there's definitely impacts
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
This was
to having certain things in
yeah.
your home.
Yeah.
This is a hard one to look past.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we don't agree with it, ultimately.
Yeah.
Of course
Right,
not.
right.
So I was like, could you give me a heads up next time there, buddy? Because it wasn't in any of the photos. It was strategically shot around it, but you open the door and it was the first thing you see.
Crazy.
Every single surface was covered in it. And I was like, okay, guys, do you want to continue into the condo? They're like, sure. But we were done in like 5 minutes.
And
That
that
was
can,
it.
that can really like kill.
It's a
kill the
consequence.
mood.
Yep.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Well,
So
not really for that guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, he can lose a few tens of thousands of dollars.
That's what you
yeah,
get.
Yeah.
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a weird doll story as well. I feel like when people are in real
Why is
estate,
it always a doll?
it's always a
I
doll.
have a different weird doll story too.
Okay,
Yeah.
we could do a whole episode on like dolls
Yeah.
and real
I don't want to
estate.
relive the doll thing. Like, this was
Yeah.
it for me. I'm not coming back for a doll episode.
I had a client buy a vacant rancher, and on the wall, like it was the master bedroom, and on the right hand side of the wall, there was a doll covered in a plastic bag, like against the wall facing the bed. And it was just, there was nothing else in the house. It was just the doll covered in like a plastic bag. It was
Nope.
like,
That's the opening scene to something you don't want to be a
yeah.
part of.
100%. Yeah.
Why is it vacant? Are all the people dead inside? 'Cause, like, that's what you think of. And I was looking at my clients like, oh my God. And I'm like, and I literally like excluded, you know, the doll on the wall. I don't even know how else to call it. They bought the house. And the craziest part was that the entrance to the crawl space was in the closet of the master bedroom by the doll. And like, they were like, oh, you want to go down? And I'm like, no.
Any
Like,
stigmas? Well, it's really, really haunted.
right?
That's what that sounds like
This
to
is
me.
Annabelle's house. Like,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
was
yeah.
insane.
gosh.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. But you're right. When you do go into people's houses, you learn a lot about them. And
You do.
I multiple offer situations, you go into somebody's house and you learn about them. You learn that they like seashells and that they're maybe European and the place is really clean. You write that cover letter, you have seashell borders, and you say, hey,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to make sure that this is kept to the level of cleanliness
Yeah.
that you keep it. You win in multiples.
Totally.
And we do that as agents. We try to learn as much as we can. And eventually you go into someone's house, you can tell if they're divorced.
You can tell everything so quickly.
Yes,
Yeah.
very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's part of our job.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people have expensive items.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like we deal with some luxury properties sometimes for people who have collections of things. Sheila, we had a seller that had expensive stuff in a townhouse. And it was all like kid height.
Yes. It was.
Some of those epoxy
No.
statues
They wish.
from Maui.
No, it was this beautiful, beautiful setup with a flight simulator down
Oh,
to
wow.
the chair and
Oh, and
all the
pedals.
controls. And it's like you would sit in the chair and it would surround you.
Yeah.
And everything is at like little kid height. And then it was a collection of different Star Wars Lego figurines.
Star Wars Legos.
And those are
like,
not
Nerds always have the most money. I don't know how it happens.
it's because they're not going out with their friends. I did not mean that.
Invite me out more, man. Damn it.
I don't pay her enough.
We've offended all the white supremacists and nerds tonight. There you go. Fine with one half of that equation.
I think that's funny. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so we had this seller who had so much stuff, and we were so nervous about it because we were like, "Hey, did you want to like put any of this away in case it gets damaged or something?"
They're
Or,
like the flight sim selling this place.
yeah, basically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had, and you get a little nervous when you're filming these things or having them shot. I
Totally.
imagine even if you're filming, which I'd love to ask you about, because it goes on the internet.
Yes.
Like people can see what they have. They can identify wealthy items like pretty darn
Oh
quickly.
yeah, the address is on there.
Yeah,
The
your
address
seller's
is
like,
on
oh, I'm
there.
so proud of this. And I'm like, but it is available for literally everyone to see.
Yeah, open houses. People are coming in and out. Now, again, I cannot be more clear. Theft is extremely rare. It's extremely rare. So when we talk about these situations, they could have happened once, but they don't happen all the time. There are hundreds of homes bought and sold every day. Okay.
Totally.
But as a first responder family, we do think about these things. And Jeremy, have you ever been asked not to shoot expensive items in homes?
Yes.
What were they and what are the addresses?
I can imagine vehicles in garages.
So
Right?
vehicles is a big one.
Yeah.
People have collector cars
Right.
in their garage, so they will often say, "Don't even go in there." Like
Oh,
they
wow.
don't want to risk anything being scratched or anything.
Yeah.
I have been asked one that I started shooting, and then the owner came up, and it was actually a shoe collection, like Nikes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
People wait outside of stores for those.
And the owner came running up and was like, "Actually, if you can avoid all of this," and it was like one whole wall of a
Yeah.
room. I didn't think anything of it, but then I was like, "Oh, that totally makes sense."
Yeah.
If there's anything that I suspect is really valuable, I will often ask.
Right.
So be like, "Hey, should we avoid this? It's a really nice flight simulator.
Yeah.
Should we avoid
Really
this?"
nice statue of an orca.
Yeah, totally.
Really nice nutcracker.
But yeah,
Really
it
nice
happens
doll.
all the time.
There are no nice
Very
dolls.
expensive.
Dolls are like cats. They're all evil.
Oh,
You know,
Agreed.
you might be right. Have you ever been nervous shooting a home because you're nervous about like hitting an object with like your camera stand or like bumping, like you're taking a shot, you bump into the nutcracker? Like, have you ever been?
yeah. So I have been in a home. It wasn't for real estate specifically, but I was given an address and I was given strict instructions when I got there to knock on the door, wait. Somebody would meet me. I was to only walk down the main corridor to the kitchen where we were shooting. And so first thing I do is I Google Maps the address. Nothing shows up. So it's in this area where I'm like, doesn't even show anything there.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a huge house that was on this property, and it was everything. When the door opened, everything was marble.
I know who this listing agent is.
So it wasn't for a listing.
Oh.
This was for something else. So I was shooting other content inside this house.
Oh.
And I was like, it's not even on the maps.
I was ready to play Guess That Agent.
Like, no. So that was a place that I walked into, and I was terrified of even dropping something.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
in case it like chipped the marble, like,
Yeah.
and it's not a good feeling.
No, because you're probably on eggshells walking
You're like,
through
I
it.
don't want to breathe on this place.
Totally. And it's actually one thing I super remember from that is the backsplash was all polished marble as well. And we set all the cameras up and everything to shoot, and it reflected everything
I believe that.
off the marble. So I was like, I can see the lights and everything. Like,
Yeah.
we have to rework it.
Yeah.
So,
Your gloss is too high quality.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Things you don't
I need a
think of.
matte
Yeah.
marble.
Yeah.
Get some matte marble in here.
Could you
Can we reprint this marble
Could someone
on matte?
breathe on it a little? Get some fingerprints.
I can
Buff it
smudge
out.
anything. In fact, my kids can smudge anything. I'd bring them
Yeah.
over there. A tub of
Yeah.
coconut oil.
Alright,
We'd
come
sort
on,
that
guys.
place right out.
Yeah.
I love that you
Yeah.
always have a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
Problem solver.
If you, David, if you come across a seller with a very expensive anything, really,
Yeah.
honestly, an expensive anything, whether it's a collection, an item, a car, how do you kind of navigate your client into being cautious about that without scaring
Honestly,
them?
it's really not much of a fight. Like, once we bring it up, it's pretty clear. It's in your best interests to probably remove this from the property for the duration of the listing.
Yeah.
Like, it just is. And if you have to put it in storage, if you have to give it to a family member for a season, if you have to go and put it in a safety deposit box at a bank, like, just don't have it here.
Right.
Like, once they've had that explained, I've never had anybody really fight me to keep something there. Occasionally, folks will have saves in their home as well, and then they can just lock it up in the safe. But
I've unfortunately seen on a local community page where someone had a really nice collection stolen out of a room on the bottom floor, and
Yeah.
their home had been listed, and their whole collection was featured in the photos. And of course, hindsight 2020, they're like, we wouldn't have had it up there and everything else, but obviously somebody out there saw it and
It's so
and took
rare.
advantage.
It's
Yeah.
so
and
rare.
people often don't recognize value. Like, there's some
totally.
I could walk into a home. I'm
Yeah.
not some antique collector. I'm
Yeah.
not a sneaker collector. I'm not really much of a collector of
Yeah.
anything other than great memories with good friends.
Aw. That's you, Jeremy.
But like, I might not have noticed. So
Yeah.
occasionally, if I get the sense, no, there could be some valuable things in here, I will just ask.
Yeah.
It's part of the same conversation with firearms, and I know that we've covered that multiple times on this podcast, I'm sure, but just lock them away, lock it all away.
Yeah, we for us, when it comes to like valuable items, it's more like it comes down to our first responders with their uniforms.
Yeah.
If someone were to take a uniform
Yeah.
or
Right.
a uniform goes missing, like the implications of that are so significant. So we just make sure that we're always careful.
And the sentimental value.
And sentimental valuable
Right.
things that cannot be replaced.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, and it could be like a cork from dinner last night, or
Yeah.
it could be the cork you popped when you found out you were pregnant or whatever. So guys, thank you so much. To sum up the conversation, it is okay and cool to collect cool stuff or have valuable things or have random
Even orca statues from Hawaii.
Random
2 of them.
Epoxy.
orca turtle epoxy statues out on
Lucite.
display.
I'm going to look that up. I want to see these
Oh,
later.
you're
I
right.
want-
She'll send you
I
pictures.
want-
Sorry, you're doing
pictures.
outro.
Oh no,
Feel
it's
free.
okay. It's all good. But yeah, no, we're gonna get those up here for sure. But it can be nerve wracking. It can be nerve wracking to have these items out in the public sphere.
Definitely.
So just make sure that if it's ever a concern for you, you talk to your realtor, you ask her advice, you weigh the pros and cons. If you're a real estate agent, bring it up with your clients in their best interest, just like David Smith was saying. So guys, thank you so much for the conversation. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start another company.
Let's just keep piling them on. Why not?
Thank you for listening to Spilling the Tea, a real estate podcast with Kristy Macero and Shelagh Maycheck.